expanded showroom at 5789 State Street. And a good morning. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Art Lewis Show. There is an organization. It's been around for a while. We've talked about it in the past. It's called the Disability Network of Mid-Michigan, and we're going to learn a little more about it today because with us on the phone is its executive director, and we say good morning to Kelly Pilon. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Art. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, anytime. I think I want to start, Kelly, I don't think we've done it in a while, a little history of Disability Network and how it got its start.
All right. Disability Network Mid-Michigan is a nonprofit organization that serves 12 counties in the Mid-Michigan area. We are one of 15 centers for independent living in the state of Michigan, and we were established in 1990. So we're celebrating our 35th anniversary this year as an organization that is assisting people with disabilities to live, work, and play independently in their communities.
And the organization, were you in the beginning? Were you there at the very beginning?
I've been here since 94, so I've been here 30 of the 35 years.
30 of 35 years. And so everybody understands you live what you preach.
Yep, I am a person with a disability myself. One of the key factors of our organization is that 51% of our employees and our board of directors must be people with disabilities, so that we're providing services from the perspective of people that are receiving the services from us. And so we definitely live that mission.
How is the organization funded, Kelly?
We get some federal funding, we have some state funding, and then we have some fee-for-service contracts within our communities to provide services for folks.
And do you use volunteers as well as paid staff?
We do use volunteers on a limited basis. We'll be using some volunteers for our upcoming community picnic. We have a reading program in the community where we use volunteers, and we're always looking for volunteers to join our board of directors. That's a volunteer position. And then also looking for people with disabilities who would volunteer to be a peer mentor to someone else with either an existing or a newly acquired disability.
Okay, you mentioned your picnic, so let's talk about that. Is that coming up soon?
It is coming up in a month. So it is a celebration of the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we call it the ADA. And the ADA is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in all areas of public life, including employment, education, transportation. It applies to private and public places that are open to the general public. And so every year in July, we host a free community picnic. This year, it's going to be Wednesday, July 16th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Haithco Park in Saginaw. Like I mentioned, it's free and open to the public. We're going to have live music provided by Stone Street Revival.
Oh, wow.
We'll have food. Yeah, they're a big draw, and they have a lot of groupies, so come on out and listen to them.
I'm one of them.
We'll have food. There's an accessible beach there. There's a Moby Mat, which is kind of a mesh walkway that helps people get right down to the water. There is a beach wheelchair that's available. There's a fully accessible playground and a splash pad. We're going to have accessible mini golf, disability trivia. There's going to be hand cycles for people to try, paddle boats. There's going to be adaptive kayaking with demonstrations hosted by Mary Freebed at the newly accessible launch. We're going to have vendors on hand to provide information about community resources. And the first 400 people that come and visit our vendor tables get a free food voucher, and attendees will have the opportunity to learn about the history of the ADA and share how that legislation has affected their lives and the lives of someone they love. And we're really grateful to our sponsors, Meyer and DTE, for helping make this event possible this year.
Kelly, one of the things the Disability Network was charged with was kind of changing society's view of those with disability.
Yeah.
Can you say we've made progress?
I think we have made progress, but, we also still have a long way to go. Folks now, because of the ADA and because of the grassroots advocacy work that people with disabilities like our organization have done, people now have access to public transportation and public spaces. People with disabilities have the right to vote. We have equal access to housing with appropriate accommodations, access to education, non-discrimination in the employment world. But, we kind of look at some of the things that have changed as sort of the floor, and we feel like we can still do better as a community and as a society. And if we're thinking about accessibility from every angle, it really benefits all of us.
So the Disability Network, you have a whole myriad of services that you offer, don't you?
Yes, we do. We're required because of our legislation to provide 5 core services. And so those are peer support, which sounds just like it is, a person with a disability offering support and mentoring to someone else with a disability. We have information and referral services where we can assist anyone, whether they have a disability or not, with navigating resources to address disability needs or to access the community more completely. We have a community transition program that is twofold. We help folks transition out of nursing facilities back into the community of their choice to live independently with their neighbors and their friends and family. And then we also help youth transition from school to the next stage of adult life. We have a skills development program where we help folks either one-on-one or in groups to learn necessary skills to live independently. And then our biggest core service, I would say, is our individual and systems change advocacy, where we work in the realm of community and public policy and legislation to make sure that when changes are made in policies, in our communities, at the federal level, at the state level, that people with disabilities are at the table and that we're a voice and we're speaking about how our needs will be affected when any changes are made within our communities.
All right. Kelly, hang on. I've got to take a break, and we'll come back and talk more with Kelly Pelong, the Executive Director of the Disability Network of Mid-Michigan.
My name is Kim Herrick.
Anything. But again, not all disabilities are visible, are they?
That's very true. When a disability is not visible, we call it a non-apparent disability. Disabilities can be temporary. It can be something that happens to somebody from an injury or an accident. And really what we say a disability is something that affects at least 2 major areas of activities of daily living. So, your ability to get around, your ability to take care of yourself, your ability to go to work. And so, we know that lots of people in our communities have disabilities, whether or not you can see them. Statistically, we know that 1 in 4 people identify as having a disability. 1 in 3 families are impacted by disability. And surprisingly, 70% of people with disabilities are not born with their disability. It's something that has occurred either due to a change in health status, an injury, or an accident. And so, disability is everywhere in our community and in our world, and every single one of us knows somebody with a disability, whether you know that or not, because not everybody is comfortable disclosing their disability as well.
And that's another side of it, and that's where, at least from an outsider standpoint, as I look at the Disability Network, to me, that's where that mentorship comes in, isn't it? Where you can have someone with a disability mentor someone who maybe recently has become disabled or for whatever reason doesn't accept their lot in life, if you will.
Exactly. And that's really why we feel like people with disabilities, it's important to talk about who we are. It's important to be at the table in every part of our community and in every part of society. We know that representation matters, and it's important for somebody who has a disability to see other people with disabilities doing things that are successful, that are, following their dreams and, doing whatever it is that they want to do, and having examples of people with disabilities in our community and around us so that we can see that truly is possible makes it easier for someone with either a newly acquired disability or maybe a disability that they're having a hard time accepting. But it also really just shows the community that we're here and that, we're just like everybody else. And, we want to be part of society and contribute in the same ways that everyone else does.
From the time the Disability Network was started 30 plus years ago till now, has there been an increase in services? Is there an increase in disabled folks in our community?
I don't think I think there's the same number of people with disabilities in our community. We've definitely changed our programs and services over time to meet the needs of our communities. But I would say that probably people are more comfortable coming forward and identifying as having a disability than actually asking for assistance. The stigma back in the day used to be that people with disabilities should be, shut off in institutions or in hospitals somewhere and not really part of our society and our community. And I think that perception has changed partly due to a lot of the advocacy work and the mentorship that we're doing to help people see that it's okay. It's not a bad thing to have a disability. It's just a part of who you are. And so as we continue to do that work, I think it makes it more comfortable for people with disabilities to come forward, identify themselves as a person with a disability, and then ask for support and assistance if they need it from us.
What did the Americans with Disability Act, the ADA, do in terms of changing attitudes and, rethinking how we view the disabilities?
I think it forced the public community to adapt and make sure that accommodations are in place so that, people with disabilities have equal access to employment, that students with disabilities can get an equal education with their other students in their community. It forced the community to say, we need to make sure that we're adapting our transportation systems and that when we're building buildings and housing and places like that, that we're making sure that it's accessible and welcoming to everyone. And make sure that people with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities to access their communities and the services within them.
Did it go far enough?
I don't think it's gone far enough. I definitely think we can go farther. We talk a lot now about universal design, which is kind of the next step above the ADA guidelines. And it breaks down lots of barriers and just makes sure that every aspect of whether it's services, whether it's programs, whether it's physical spaces and places, that we're reducing the barriers for everyone. And so I do think we still have a long way to go, but it was a good start, and so we do definitely celebrate that.
Let me ask you, in terms of looking ahead, looking 5-10 years down the road into that P-long crystal ball, what do you see in terms of the way we treat disabilities? How is it going to change in the future, do you think?
I'm hoping that it will just be a non-conversation starter, that it will just be something that will be accepted across the board, and that we won't have to point out our disabilities in order to get equal access, that it will be something that will be considered up front when, communities are changing or when programs are being designed or events are being planned, that we just look at how can we make sure that we're welcoming and inclusive to everyone, whether they have a disability or not, and that, maybe at some point it won't even need to be part of the conversation. Because disability is really the only group that crosses every single aspect of society. Doesn't matter your age, your race, your gender, your religion, any of those. Anyone can have a disability in any of those groups, and anyone can acquire a disability at any time. So really thinking about that, especially as our communities are aging, folks want to age in place, and so making sure that we're accommodating everyone from the beginning, I think, is where we really need to be.
So a person with a disability who feels the need to obtain some services, what's the protocol with the Disability Network? What do they need to do, and what are the first steps in determining what they need?
All they need to do is call us at either 989-835-4041, or they can go on to our website, which is dnmm.org. We have a chat function on there. We have an option where folks can fill out a form and email us. Either way, all they have to do is just let us know that they're looking for disability services or resources. We don't require anybody to have proof of their disability. We take their word for it. If someone calls in and says, I have a disability and I need assistance, we will route them to the right person to assist with whatever that need is. If it's a family member calling about someone and they need additional support and services, all they have to do is tell us that. They will start with our information and referral department. That's kind of the front door of our agency. They sort of screen and help people explain what it is that they need, and then we help route them to the right person that can assist them.
That's an interesting way of doing it, because I was going to ask if you have folks along the lines of case management, for example, that can sit down and determine all the needs and point people in the right direction.
Yep, we do, actually. Yep, we start out with, do they need resources and assistance? Are they just looking for information so that they can do it on their own? If they want somebody to kind of walk alongside them and assist them, we can do that. And then we have options counselors, who are folks that, just similar to what you said, they sort of help the person to determine what the needs are, kind of help them develop a plan, and then if they need assistance from us further, we can again walk alongside them. But really our goal is to help people to be able to understand how to get the services and supports they need, how to advocate for themselves, so that ultimately they can do that without us. We're focused on independence, but we will definitely walk alongside people as they need support to learn all of that and to be comfortable and confident.
How difficult is finding housing today, particularly for folks who have mobility needs?
Housing is probably one of the biggest barriers right now. We're in a housing crisis as it is, but affordable, accessible housing is definitely a huge barrier for people with mobility needs. In our nursing facility transition program, where we help folks transition out of nursing facilities, I think right now we have close to 75 people wanting to leave a nursing facility, and we can't find them affordable, accessible housing in their communities. So it's definitely a need.
And I don't have to be honest, I don't see it improving very much in the near future, particularly because of the cost of what it costs to build today.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep, that's definitely an area that we do a lot of advocacy on and helping the community understand. Again, that's where that universal design comes in. If a new apartment complex goes up, why not build all of the units accessible so anybody can move in, rather than, only 2 or 3, and then you got to be on a waiting list for somebody to leave.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, let's remind everybody about your picnic.
Okay. It is July 16th. It's a Wednesday, coming up in just a month here, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Haithco Park in Saginaw. The event is free and open to the public. We're going to have live music provided by Stone Street Revival. We're going to have food. We're going to have accessible recreation. We'll have vendors on hand to provide information about community resources. The first 400 people to visit our vendor tables get a free food voucher, and we just look forward to celebrating with our community and honoring this landmark legislation to recommit ourselves to the ongoing fight for full inclusion, access, and equity for all people with disabilities. So we hope people come on out and join us on July 16th at 4 o'clock.
Well, Kelly, you've always been and you are a terrific spokesman for the cause, and we look forward to seeing you. We'll have to stop over to the picnic in a month. See you then.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'd love to have you. Take care.
Bye-bye now. Kelly Petalong, she is the Executive Director of the Disability Network of Mid-Michigan, and we will be back with open phones for the remainder of the hour.
Reliable.
Hi, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show. Open phones for the remainder of the hour. 989-752-6111, the number to call. Whatever you'd like to chat about, we'd be happy to talk to you. The conflict going on between Israel and Iran may, and that's the key word, may produce some interesting results, because apparently Iran has been signaling that it wants to seek an end to hostilities and a resumption of talks over its nuclear programs. They've sent the message to Israel and the U.S. via some of their intermediaries in the midst of the Israeli air campaign, which has done severe damage. The only condition they put on the talks is that the U.S. doesn't join the attack. Well, first of all, I don't think the U.S. has to join the attack. Israel seems quite capable of doing what it needs to do. Of course, we do realize much of the weaponry that's being used is supplied by the United States. But that's not the same thing as joining the attack. But I would expect Israel probably will strike some more before they want to sit down and talk. They want to make sure they put a halt to the activities going on in Iran. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Mark is in Sanford. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Art. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So you had a caller call a minute ago talking about separating their kids, and I just would like to ask if she had thought that when you break a law and you take a child and break the law with your child with you, what kind of parent are you right then? So if they know they're breaking the law when they're coming in, they're taking their child and breaking the law with their child. So
a lot of them use their child to get in.
Right.
And a lot of them are bringing kids in that aren't their child.
Right. So all that she's talking about, separating them, if you were a parent who broke the law with your child, maybe you should be separated from your child.
Yeah, interesting view.
You have a good day.
Thanks. Thanks for calling. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
It's listen, it's not easy to split up a family. But at some point, it's been pointed out in the past, for example, if you, and I think it was Homan that said this, the head of the border efforts right now, if you live in a family here in this country and one of your parents commits a crime, guess what? They're going to go to jail. You're going to be separated. Or if your parents don't treat you properly, you're going to be separated. Well, I think bringing children across a border illegally, risking their lives in many cases, is in a way child abuse. And I'm not sure, as the previous caller said, that they deserve to have their children. Now, I know the argument is out there, well, we're bringing him across for a better life and all of that. Is it for the child or is it for you? And how many kids have we seen wandering alone, picked up by the Border Patrol? It's just, I just think we need, as a country, to come to terms with our immigration policy, sit down and negotiate between all parties an immigration policy that makes sense for this country. No one is against immigrants. Let's start there. Because for the most part, we're all immigrants. The country was built by immigrants. The country is, founded and created by people that were immigrants. The exception is Native Americans. And even Native Americans migrated to this land. But they did it legally. We have laws in place, but they are not very effective. And the immigration issue has been kicked down the road by Congress after Congress, administration after administration. And here we are today. So I think that it should be incumbent upon Congress to once and for all take the bull by the horns and come up with legislation that makes sense. And if our legal border entry points are not sufficient to do the job, then maybe we create some new entry points. But one way or another, you can't have a sieve for a border because then you don't have a country. If you don't have a border, how do you define a country? Something to think about. Lines open and we'll be back.
Jeff Gronsky here with Auto Bright.
Yeah, I tried to get her to answer that, but she didn't.
Oh, Art, one thing I've noticed when you ask her, she's deaf. So anyway, so Obama did a good thing in my mind. I wasn't a fan of his, but he was deporting people, but nobody said a word. Then along comes Trump, and he's trying to do something with the border, and he pays a hell of a price for having about a few hundred children in a cage looking for their families.
And who built those cages? Who built those cages? Guess what?
Obama did.
Yeah.
So he paid hell of a price for that. And then along comes Biden, and Biden has given us a gift now that will probably be paying for years, one way or another. And,
gift that keeps on giving.
And exactly. And so now under him, we don't have a few hundred in a cage looking for their families. We have tens, maybe hundreds of thousands, according to the experts, of children running around the country that have no name, no nothing. Nobody even knows they're alive. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands, according to the experts. And yet nobody seems to have a problem with that and under Biden. Now we have Trump again, and he's got to try to fix the problem Biden made with the open borders, and now he's paying hell for it again. It's odd how how things go sometimes.
Yeah,
so,
it's the nature of the beast.
Well, it is, and unfortunately, you know, the open border thing. I mean,